All right. Well, this lesson will be over the Constitution of the United States. Hopefully, it will be beneficial to you in learning a little bit about what the Constitution has in it. We're just going to go over a brief overview. We're not going to go line by line or paragraph by paragraph. We're just going to go, basically over what we went in class, which is, again, just an overview. You'll get more in depth in future years in high school, but right now, this is good enough just to know what is in the actual Constitution. For the bell work today, this is the question that we asked today, which is to define impeachment, quorum, and president pro tempore. Sorry, got a little tongue-tied there. President pro tempore. If you don't have your book handy, you might want to open that up in a browser or something so you can have it handy for this. We will be going through it, assuming that you have your book or a copy of the Constitution next to you. So go ahead and try to open that up. If you need to pause it, go ahead and pause it. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on. We did review Chapter 8 test. Hopefully you got that back. If not, please see me. I know some people were absent and didn't get that back. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of move on. If you need to retake the test, please see me. The best chance to take it is after school or possibly Fridays. At that time, I have tutoring, and so you might be able to come in on Friday and take it as well. We do have a test on March 2nd and 3rd. That's next Thursday and Friday, depending on if you're A day or B day. Make sure you have that in your planners. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip past all of this because you can read through that if you want to. Later, I want to go ahead and get to the meat of this. But again, this is talking about the Constitution. So this is the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure or secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We're going to break this apart, but know that the preamble is like an introduction saying everything we're about to say, this is why we're saying this. This is the purpose behind it. This is where we are going and the direction that we're going. Okay, so first of all, this is where the notes start. In order to, number one, form a more perfect union. The United States at that time, under the Articles of Confederation, they were not very unified. The states were still looking out for themselves, and they wanted to create a government that would bring them closer together in a more perfect union than what they had seen before. They also said that the government that we create, we want to make sure that there's justice, right? We want to establish justice within our borders to make sure that people do get fair trials, they get protection, they have some assurances of the protection of their rights. Also ensure domestic tranquility. One of the things we talked about in class is what does that word domestic mean? And what does tranquility mean? Well, domestic means home, having to relate with the home or close to your home. Tranquility is talking about being peaceful or civil. So domestic tranquility is literally talking about we want to make sure that when people are in the United States, right, our citizens are here in our country, that there is peace. We want to make sure that this is a peaceful environment, that there isn't strife if at all possible. Number 4, provide for the common defense. This is fairly self-explanatory, but that word common is everybody. For not just for some, but for everyone in the United States. We want to make sure that they are defended. And so a lot of what you'll see today is talking about the military, the powers of Congress are there to help create a military and make sure that we are protected as a nation. Okay, promote the general welfare. This isn't talking about food stamps or anything like that. This is talking about, which although that would definitely fall under that, but it's bigger than that. It's talking about having safe water to drink and safe sanitation and an education system. Everything that we need to become a great society, that's the general welfare. And secure the blessings of liberty. We are a free nation. We have people that are free, and there are blessings that come along with that. So what this is talking about is making sure that people are able to enjoy being free. We are, but we want to be able to enjoy that freedom as well. So enjoy or secure the blessings of liberty. Okay, first off, right off the bat, right after the introduction, we go into Article 1, Section 1, the first sentence in that whole area, and I'm going to turn to my book here to make sure that I'm reading it correctly as well. It says that all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. This sentence creates the Congress of the United States. This is important because they mention this. The writers, the framers of the Constitution mention this right from the beginning, meaning that it's that important. This is so important that that we put it right up front, right from the get-go, right up front. This is the most important part, the Congress. They didn't put the president first. They didn't put the Supreme Court first. They put the Congress first because from the beginning, they knew that the Congress was going to be the secret to success in this nation. And so all the lawmaking powers go to the Congress. Also, they said that it's a bicameral legislature. We've talked about that before. There's the Senate on one side and the House of Representatives on the other side. Okay, enumeration. This word enumeration means a census or a count of the population. And what it says in the Constitution is that every 10 years, we are going to take a census. The last one was in 2010. The next one is in 2020, and it will be every 10 years after that. The House of Representatives, and we're just going to kind of click through some of these because this is the order that they're appearing in the Constitution. So it may seem a little sporadic, but this is basically going through it, hitting the highlights of the Constitution. But anyways, the House of Representatives have the sole power of its impeachment. This is in paragraph 5 of section 2. It says the House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. This isn't talking about impeachment of the president. This is talking about impeachment of its own members. The House of Representatives can impeach its own members. We'll look later and see, who has the power to impeach the president. And it's not the House of Representatives. So the vice president, some people wonder, what does the vice president do all day? What is his job? Well, his job isn't just to sit around and have meetings with the president. He does, or she, if we ever elect a female vice president, the job of the vice president is to preside over the Senate. So the vice president really is in charge over there in the Senate, but they only vote to break a tie. Remember, it's 100 people in the Senate, 50 and 50, right? So if you have 50 and 50 that vote, right, and you have 50% saying yes, 50% saying no, there's a tie, 50 against 50. The vice president comes to break that tie. The vice president comes to break that tie, and it just happened with the Secretary of Education. There was a 50 against 50 vote in the Senate to confirm Secretary DeVos, and the Vice President Pence came in and broke that tie. So that's something to keep in mind. But when the vice president is not there, somebody has to come in and fill that spot. So the Senate chooses from its 100 members, chooses a president pro tempore, or pro temp, or pro tem, depending on who you listen to. They may abbreviate that, but it's president pro tempore, or pro tempore, sorry. That it's a temporary replacement for the vice president. And that's what that word temporary, it is actually Latin for temporary. And that's where we get that from.
President pro tempore.
See that? That's where we get that. Oops, let me go.
President pro tempore.
There we go. So the president...
President pro tempore.
Let me let this play out.
President.
There we go. All right. So the
President pro tempore.
My goodness. So sorry, that recording, it had little lags to it. But the power of impeachment for the president and the Supreme Court belongs to the Senate. Remember before, the House of Representatives can impeach its own members, but if it's the president or the Supreme Court, the Senate impeaches the president if it's required. And it requires a 2/3 vote of the members. So 2/3 of the Senate has to agree to vote out the president and basically lose the job. But this hearing, this impeachment hearing, is not just, or it's not a criminal court case. All it does is decide if the president can be the president after that. So what they're doing is when they vote, and let's say they do impeach a president, all it means is the president gets fired. That's it. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else. After the president gets fired, then there may be criminal charges that are brought against the president, but that's not an impeachment trial. So if you're looking at an impeachment trial, if it ever does happen again, which it may not, but if it ever does, it's not going to say that that person is guilty and they have to serve time in jail. That's not what it's about. It's just whether or not that person gets fired or gets to keep their job. Basically, that's it. The Constitution in Section 4. Now we're in Section 4. Constitution says that the Congress can determine a lot of things, but the state actually gets to determine the time, place, and manner of elections for the Senate and the House of Representatives. The U.S. Congress has to meet at least once every year. At least once every year. Now, the state legislatures, they're different. I know Texas meets only once every other year, so this is per state, but the U.S. Congress has to meet at least once a year. And when they meet, they have to have a quorum, what's known as a quorum. And a quorum is the number you need to have an official vote. In the U.S. Congress, it's a majority, a simple majority. So 50% plus 1 is a majority, and that's what the Constitution says is official or enough to do official business. And it reads like this: a majority of each house, so a majority of each, shall constitute a quorum to do business. So it's the minimum number in order to do official business. Each house, the Senate and the House of Representatives, each house makes up its own rules. So they don't make rules for each other, they make rules for themselves, the same way you would your own home, right? You don't make rules for your neighbor's house. You don't make rules for the people down the street. You make rules for your own house, and they make rules for their house. So that kind of makes sense. And also the house, or a house, so the Senate cannot adjourn for more than 3 days without the approval of the other house, of the House of Representatives, and vice versa. What adjourn means, think about adjourn like this. In school, we adjourn class at the end of our time, right? Whatever time we let out of class, that's when we adjourn. And at the end of our day, we adjourn at 3:30. That's what time we end our school day. And then at the end of the year, we adjourn the school year. Meeting adjourned, school year is adjourned. It's when it ends. That session is over and done with. So what it says is that the House, let's say the House of Representatives, cannot end its session for more than 3 days without the approval of the other house, because they need each other in order to get business done. So that's very, very important. Very, very important. Now, what do they get paid? Well, congressmen in the Senate and the House, they get paid, as of 2012, they get paid a salary from the Treasury Department. That salary is $174,000 per year. Congressmen they can't be arrested unless it's a felony, it's treason, or it's a breach of peace. So if it's a simple misdemeanor or it's a state crime, that is not something that they can be arrested for. They're immune from that. They have what's called immunity. But if it's a felony, if it's a U.S. crime, or if it's treason, or what's considered a breach of peace, then they can be arrested. Congress salaries can't be changed in the middle of the term. If you have a congressman who's in the middle of the term and they just all get together and decide, we're going to give ourselves a pay raise. Well, that's fine, but it won't take effect unless they get reelected, and then it'll take effect the next term. So they can't just change it anytime they want to. It would have to take effect after the last term. And if you can see there, the last time it happened was in 2012. So it's been a number of years before or since we've done that before. Okay, this should look familiar to you. This was something we looked at the beginning of the school year, and I'm handing it back out again to go over in detail the steps for a bill to become a law. Understand that if it's a law dealing with taxes, if it's a new tax that the U.S. government is trying to create, that bill has to start in the House of Representatives. It cannot start in the Senate. Can't. It has to start in the House of Representatives. These are the nuts and bolts, just simplest form of how I can explain it to you that a bill becomes a law. First, the bill is introduced on the floor. And if you have this sheet next to you, you can kind of follow along and read more in depth to understand it. But the bill is first introduced either in the Senate or in the House. The bill is then debated at a committee. So it goes into a small room with just a small number of representatives that are going to argue and debate it. Now, if it makes it out of committee, it is then debated on the floor of the Senate or the House of Representatives. And it's voted on. They take a vote. Then when it gets voted on and they say, yes, we like this, it goes to the other house and that process starts all over again. Once it's made it through both houses, it's approved. It's finally approved by the president. If the president vetoes it, then all that was for nothing. But if the president signs it, it becomes a law. Now, even if the president vetoes it, the House of Representatives and the Senate can vote in order to overturn that veto and still make it a law anyway. It rarely happens because of the amount of number of people that it needs to make that happen, but it can happen. It definitely can happen. It's just very extremely rare to get that much that much of the Congress to vote against the president. We're going to skip past the video that we watched in class. Don't really want to take time to do that. We want to go ahead and kind of move on. Basically, it was just that I'm Just a Bill song. So if you want to watch that, you can look it up on YouTube as well. Okay, here are some powers. These are expressed enumerated powers of Congress. So this is written in Section 8, right, in the Constitution. This is Section 8. These are the powers written word for word that the Constitution expressly gives the Congress. They can tax, right? They have the power to create a tax, which is something they didn't have under the Articles of Confederation. Congress can borrow money. I remember one of the classes, somebody was very shocked to know that Congress could borrow money. Absolutely, we have to pay it back. That's part of that national debt that keeps running rampant and just kind of running away and going up and up and up is the money that we owe other people. That national debt is going to get you. They have the power to regulate trade, right? Congress can regulate trade in and out of the United States. They can create naturalization laws. Now, naturalization, don't be confused. What this is talking about is how to become a citizen, right? Laws of how to become a citizen. That's what naturalization laws are. Coin money or make money. When we say to coin money, they have the power to make money, and we're glad they do. Not only that, but they can create standard measurements. So why is a foot a foot? You know, when we say a ruler, why is it that long and not longer or not shorter? It's because there's a standard of measurement, and that is set in stone. But the Congress can change that if they want to, because the Constitution gives them the authority to do that within our borders. They have the power to punish counterfeit people that counterfeit money, right? People that are making money that is fake money. It is a crime. It definitely is a crime. Also, they can establish post office and roads, right? Roads and post offices really do go hand in hand, because you need roads to be able to deliver the mail. And so this really does go hand in hand, side by side. You want to be able to make roads and give the government the ability to make roads so they can deliver that mail, and we're all glad that they can. Trademark and copyright laws. If you write a poem or a song or a letter or anything, really, you want to be able to have rights to that. And so the Congress can, create laws to oversee copyright infringement. So all of that is dealt with by the government, making that under their jurisdiction. The Supreme Court is really the only court, these federal courts are really the only courts that the Constitution addresses directly. So we want to be able to create new courts as necessary, and Congress, not the judicial branch, but the Congress is able to create new lower courts if necessary. They can declare war and they can raise an army. So they can declare war and they can raise an army. Hopefully that's not necessary, but if it is, only Congress can declare war. The president cannot declare war, and the Supreme Court cannot declare war. The president can drop bombs and send troops and do things for 90 days without declaring war, but after that 90 days, if we declare war, that has to be done by the Congress. The president cannot do whatever he wants to do past that, or she, if there's a female who's elected. Okay. So the Congress has the ability also, and this is continuing on from that last thought, but they have the ability to maintain a navy. So we can have an army, we can have a navy. The Congress makes rules for the military. They also can create a militia and train that militia. All of this helping to secure the common defense, or provide for the common defense of our nation. We need to have an army, we need to have a navy, we need rules and structure for that military, and we also need to have a militia to help out from the state's people that are there as a reserve force just in case we might need them. The elastic clause. The elastic clause. Think of a rubber band, just like the picture shows right there. Think of a rubber band. The Constitution gives these laws to Congress, or gives these rights or powers to Congress, but sometimes it doesn't expressly, word for word, say that they can do certain things in order to make those powers possible. So, if it says that, the Congress can promote the general welfare, or if it says that Congress can, Congress can do certain things like taxing. Well, if they need to make other things happen in order to tax, or if they need to, create some other kind of system to make those powers a reality that isn't expressly stated in the Constitution, then this clause, this what's called the elastic clause, it basically helps them to do that. It gives them the right to do that. And I want to go ahead and read that really quick here. It says that Congress has the power to make laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or office thereof. So if they need to create new offices, they can do that. If they need to create new laws, they can do that, even if it doesn't expressly say it in the Constitution, because the Constitution understands that they can't put every single law in there. So this is kind of a catch-all, also referred to as the necessary and proper clause, to do what's necessary and proper. Okay, a couple other terms, and then we'll be done. We're almost done here. But the writ of habeas corpus. All right, a writ of habeas corpus. What a writ of habeas corpus is, corpus meaning corpse or body, habeas basically referring to producing that body. What this says is the government, if an officer, if a police officer is going to put you in jail, they have to show just cause. They have to show proof or evidence of why they're keeping you in jail. And if they don't have any evidence, they can't keep you in jail. So they have to submit a document called a writ of habeas corpus to keep you in jail, showing, yes, we do have evidence, and this is why they're in jail, and this is why we're going to charge them with a crime. That's what we're going to do. So the next couple of things we're talking about, these are things forbidden by the Constitution. The first one is a bill of attainder. Bill of attainder allows punishment without a trial. And they said, no, we're not doing that. You have to give people a trial before you punish them. No bills of attainder will be allowed. The next one is called an ex post facto law. This is the law that makes something illegal retroactively, right? So if I say that students are not allowed to have pencils from this day forward, and all the students who had pencils last week are now going to get in trouble, well, no, the law didn't exist. It was legal back when they did it, right? It was legal back then, so it has to be legal now. In other words, we can't go back and arrest everybody or get everybody in trouble after we've written the law. It doesn't work that way. It has to start from today and go forward. No retroactive laws. All right. So only Congress can decide to spend money. They have to create a law to do it. So they have to create a law to spend money. It's called the power of the purse. They hold the purse. They have the wallet. Only they can spend the money. The president might decide, hey, I want to spend money on this, but he can't do that. He can't spend the money without congressional approval. The president does control the treasury, so he has the money. He just can't spend any of it until Congress says he can, or she, if we elect a female. Citizens can't be given titles of nobility or receive gifts, titles, and offices from other countries. That's pretty self-explanatory. We don't want your allegiance to be to other countries. We pledge allegiance to this country. And so if you're going to be a royal member of the royal family of another country, or you're going to be getting gifts from another country, it's just messy. It's messy. It's not good business, and we don't want people to do that. All right, last couple of lines here. States can't make treaties or change the monetary system, the money system, right? They can't make treaties. They can't change the money system, but the Congress can do that. Here's another one. States can't keep their own private army separate from the national army without the approval of Congress. Congress has to authorize them to do that. Mainly, I think this is because we don't want people rising up to separate or to pull away from us. We want to protect our borders. But anyway, all right, well, that's it for the notes. The other thing that we have on the other side of that worksheet that was given to you, there is the critical thinking questions, or the critical thinking worksheet is on the other side of that with those questions on it. So yeah, make sure you're doing that. Make sure that gets turned in. That is due in the next class for those of you that got to sign that. Some of the classes didn't get that far in the notes, but we will all do that. All students will end up doing that at one point or another. Make sure that you have your planners up to date. As always, make sure that test is in there. Make sure you have that the homework is due. And we will see you guys in class next time. Love you guys. Hope you have a good night, a good weekend. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to email me or send me something on Remind. We'll see you guys later.